Ever feel like you're on a roller coaster, you can't get off of life just throwing stuff your way, you're just kind of stuck dealing with it,
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
right? Well, it turns out there's a whole philosophy for that, like a user's manual for handling the chaos. Ready for this? It's called Stoicism.
Stoicism. And what's really cool is we've got a treasure trove of material about how one very prominent historical figure used it to navigate his own life. We're talking Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius.
Wait, a Roman emperor using ancient philosophy to deal with stress? I'm so in. Let's hear it.
And it gets even better. We're not talking about some official decree he issued. It's his own personal reflections, his meditations, never meant for anyone else's eyes.
A Roman emperor writing what's basically a self-help journal. Okay, now this deep dive is getting interesting. But before we get ahead of ourselves, what exactly is Stoicism? Give us the SparkNotes version.
So, at its core, Stoicism is about focusing on what you can control, your own thoughts, your actions, and accepting the stuff you can't, like all those external events life throws at us.
So it's not about just giving up and accepting everything. More like you're choosing how to react.
Exactly. You got it. It's about recognizing that, hey, we can't always choose what happens, but we can always choose how we respond.
Sounds great on paper, but how do you actually put that into practice when you're in the thick of it?
That's where the Stoic idea of virtue comes in. It's about striving to live in accordance with reason, with nature. Basically doing your best no matter how tough things get.
So it's about actively choosing to respond in a way that aligns with your values, even when it's hard.
Absolutely. And a key part of that is this idea of amor fati means love of fate. It's about accepting what is, finding the opportunity, the growth, even in the stressful stuff.
Okay, starting to see why this has stuck around for centuries.
Yeah.
But back to Marcus Aurelius. Besides being a powerful emperor, what led him to Stoicism?
Imagine the weight of the world literally on your shoulders. Aurelius dealt with wars, rebellions, natural disasters, all while trying to rule justly. Stoicism gave him a way to handle that pressure.
Sounds like he needed more than just a pep talk.
Right, he needed something practical, something to base his decisions on. For Aurelius, Stoicism wasn't about just enduring hardship, it was about using those challenges to grow, to improve himself.
So not avoiding the tough stuff, but using it to your advantage.
Exactly. One of the biggest things he took from Stoicism was this idea of resilience and accepting that nothing stays the same. Your successes, your failures, even how you feel. The key was not getting too hung up on any of it. Focus on what you could control your response.
That's pretty powerful, like that saying, this too shall pass, but with more of a can-do attitude.
Yeah, and this wasn't just some theory for him. His meditations are full of reflections on how he actually tried to live these Stoic ideals day to day, even as emperor.
Makes you wonder, what kind of challenges did he face? Could he really walk the walk, or did he struggle too?
And that's what's so cool about meditations. It's like a window into his internal struggles. Reminds us that even someone considered a model of Stoicism had their own battles.
Even emperors have bad days.
Yeah. Exactly. And you know what one of those struggles was? Something that might surprise you. It was his focus on friendship, something you wouldn't think an emperor would worry about.
Friendship, really? Why was that such a big deal for him?
He saw real human connection as crucial for a good life. And not just about having fun, he believed that surrounding yourself with good people could help you become more virtuous, live a better life.
Interesting. So Stoicism isn't about being a lone wolf. It recognizes how important connection is.
Totally. It's not about isolating yourself and trying to be perfectly stoic all the time. We're human. We need connection, and those relationships can help us on our own journey.
Okay, this is really making sense now. But spill the tea. Was Aurelius perfect at this? Did he always live up to these Stoic ideals?
Well, that's the thing about meditations. He wasn't writing for an audience. It was for him, working through his own flaws. He even admits to struggling with anger, frustration, doubts about himself.
So he wasn't some superhuman Stoic robot, just
Yeah.
a real person trying his best.
Exactly. He saw Stoicism as an ongoing practice, something you work at every day, not a finish line you cross.
So it's about the journey, not just the destination. That's actually really encouraging. But how do we even start to apply these ancient ideas today? I mean, it's not like we're Roman emperors.
That's the million-dollar question. And that's where the rubber really meets the road with Stoicism. But the good news is there are some very specific things we can do every day to help cultivate that Stoic mindset.
Okay, I'm listening. What kind of things are we talking about? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready for those Stoicism tips. What can we actually do to get started?
Well, one of the most powerful things, and Aurelius did this every single day, is called negative visualization.
Negative visualization.
Whoa.
Whoa. That sounds kind of intense.
Yeah.
And, well, negative? What is that exactly?
I know the name sounds kind of scary, right? Like you're just waiting for the worst to happen. It's not like that at all. It's actually about mentally preparing for tough situations. So if they do happen, you're not totally blindsided.
Okay, so it's better to be prepared even if it means thinking about bad stuff happening.
Think of it this way. Imagine you have to give a big presentation. You practiced, you know your stuff, but you're still nervous. What if instead of trying to not be nervous, you spent a few minutes picturing things going wrong? Like, what if the projector breaks or someone asks you a really hard question?
I see what you mean. If I've already thought about those things, I wouldn't be as freaked out if they actually happen.
Exactly. By mentally rehearsing those setbacks, you're less likely to panic. Plus, you realize that even if the worst does happen, it's not the end of the world. It gives you perspective.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. What other Stoic practices did Aurelius use?
Another big one is daily reflection. Aurelius started and ended his day with it. Basically a way to check in with yourself, your thoughts, actions, everything.
Like journaling, but more structured.
Yeah, you could say that. In the morning, he'd use it to prepare for the day. Think about potential challenges and how he wanted to respond. Then at night, he'd review his actions, figure out what went well, what could have gone better.
So being more intentional, more accountable for your life.
Exactly. Recognizing that every day is a chance to grow, to learn from what you did.
Deep stuff. Any other practices that might be a little out there?
Well, Aurelius was also a fan of voluntary discomfort.
Voluntary discomfort. Wait, why would you choose to be uncomfortable on purpose?
It's about putting yourself in slightly uncomfortable situations, and I emphasize slightly just to gain perspective, build mental toughness.
Give me an example. Like what kind of discomfort are we talking?
Could be small stuff, like taking a cold shower, skipping a meal, giving up your favorite snack for a week. You get the idea.
I could maybe handle the cold shower. But giving up chocolate for a week? That's going to be tough.
It's not about making yourself miserable. The point is to prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort, that you're stronger than you think. Then when it pops up in your life, which it will, you'll be more ready to handle it.
So challenging yourself in small ways builds up your resilience for the big challenges.
Exactly, like building mental muscle. The more you use them, the stronger they get.
This is all reminding me of therapy. Like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. They talk about similar things.
You're right. There's a strong connection there. CBT is all about how our thoughts, not external events, control our emotions and behaviors.
Hold on, so that whole Stoic idea that it's not what happens to you but how you react to it, that's basically CBT too.
Exactly. It's amazing, right, how these ancient philosophies still hold up today. CBT borrows a lot from Stoicism, especially when it comes to dealing with stress and anxiety.
It's really cool how these old ideas are still so relevant. But I bet some people are thinking, okay, but is Stoicism really relevant today, or is it just an interesting history lesson?
I hear you. And I'd argue it's more relevant than ever. Think about it. The world today is so fast-paced,
Yeah.
so much information, so much pressure. Stoicism gives us a way to find calm, focus, purpose, even in the middle of all that.
So it's like an antidote to modern life.
Exactly. It gives us tools to deal with uncertainty, manage our emotions, figure out what really matters.
Makes sense. So we've talked about Stoicism as a practical philosophy with tools and practices. But what about people who might think it's too passive? Like, isn't the point to strive for more, to try to change things, not just accept them?
That's a really common misunderstanding. It's not about being passive at all. It's about being smart about where you put your energy. Focus on what you can control. Remember what's within our control and what's not.
So choose your battles. Focus on what you can actually influence.
That's it. Realizing we don't always control what happens around us, but we always control how we think, how we act, how we respond.
Okay, I get that. What about emotions, though? Doesn't Stoicism say we should be emotionless? Like suppress all our feelings?
Another big misunderstanding, it's not about suppressing emotions at all. Actually, it's the opposite. It's about understanding them, managing them with reason.
So not pretending we don't have feelings, but not being controlled by them either.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. Accepting what is, but also working to make the best of it. We're human, we're going to feel things, but we don't have to be ruled by them.
This has been eye-opening, really. But before we go any further, can we get some real-world examples? How are people using Stoicism today? This has been eye-opening, really. But before we go any further, can we get some real-world examples? How are people using Stoicism today?
Oh, absolutely. We already mentioned the link between Stoicism and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. A lot of therapists are using these principles to help people with anxiety, depression, all kinds of mental health stuff. It's about learning to spot those negative thought patterns and consciously choosing more helpful ones.
So it's not just ancient history. These ideas are being used right now to help people live better lives.
Right.
What about other areas? Where else is Stoicism popping up?
There's actually a whole growing movement of modern Stoics people who find these principles incredibly relevant to, 21st century life, online communities, books, podcasts, even apps. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. So this ancient philosophy is having a real moment.
It really is. And it makes sense. When you think about it, we are constantly bombarded with information, constantly connected, facing pressure like Aurelius couldn't have imagined. Stoicism gives us a way to find stillness, focus, resilience in all that noise.
Like a roadmap for modern life. And the
Yeah.
crazy thing is it still works after all these centuries.
Exactly. And it all comes back to that core Stoic idea, true happiness fulfillment. It doesn't come from what's happening around you, it comes from within. It's about aligning your thoughts, your actions with virtue, focusing on what you can control and accepting the rest.
Sounds like a pretty solid recipe for a good life, no matter who you are or what you're going through. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Stoicism, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
I think the biggest thing, and we see this too clearly with Marcus Aurelius, is that we always have a choice. We can choose how we respond to whatever life throws at us. It might not be easy, Aurelius's own writing proves that, but that effort, striving for virtue, finding your inner strength, that's where true freedom is.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. And speaking of powerful thoughts, I have to share one of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius. He said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So choose wisely, everyone."
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Stoicism. We hope you found it insightful, empowering, maybe even life-changing. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.